Welcome to this video. Please be aware that this is not a one-off video. We are currently in a study. We also do welcome constructive criticism if it's done in the right way. If you notice any errors that we need to correct, we also appreciate that. Let's get into this video. In our previous video, Relearning Ancient Greece, we read the definition for this term, Euhemerism. This is actually the perspective we're going to take now by trying to see if we can find the Greek god Zeus in the Bible, because then we'd be considering Zeus as a real person, and that would in turn create historical events in terms of the mythology and the legends. We'd have to consider, is there some historical truth to the legends and the myths? The source we're going to be starting with is the historian Josephus and his Antiquities of the Jews, but we're actually going to chapter 15, how the nation of the troglodytes were derived from Abraham by Keturah. Let's read the sons of Abraham by Keturah. We have Zambran and Jazar and Madan and Midian and Josabak and Zeus. So here we have Zeus. Now, is this the same name as the Greek god Zeus? Now, if you know your Bible well, you might be thinking, I don't remember seeing Zeus in my Bible. Let's go to Genesis 25, and read the same sons. So it's the same genealogy. So we have Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. So we don't have any Zeus here in the Bible. Now it's actually the descendants, the grandchildren, that help us with this, because if we go to this next part, it says, now the sons of Zeus were Sabatan and Dedan. And this is how we can work out which son it was that's connected with Zeus in the Bible, because if we go back to Genesis, it says Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. So Jokshan, the father of Sheba and Dedan, but in the work of Josephus Flavius, it says, now the sons of Zeus were Sabatan and Dedan. So why does Josephus call Jokshan Zeus? This is going to be very interesting now, because if we go to the etymology for Jokshan, it says the meaning, one who sets a snare or fowler. From the verb yakosh, kush, and then we also have via kush, we have related names like Kish, Kishi, Kishon. So we can see how the name Jokshan is connected to these related names like Kish. So this is the theory that we're going to be asking and putting forward, is the biblical Kush really the Greek god Zeus? So historical. So let's just go through that again. So in the Bible, we have Jokshan, but when Josephus is writing his history, he doesn't use Jokshan, he says Zeus. And when we look for the etymology for Jokshan, we see Yakosh, Kush, Kish. So does that actually mean that Zeus is being connected with Kush? So does that actually make sense if we think about who Josephus was writing for? Let's just read this. This could be important. The works of Josephus were all composed in the Greek language, with the exception of his first draft of the Jewish War, which was in Aramaic. His principal purpose was to communicate to the Greco-Roman world. So he's writing for the Greco-Roman world. He's not writing to the Hebrews or the Israelites. So that's why it makes sense, because he doesn't use Jokshan, he's using a name that the Greco-Roman world would understand, which would be Zeus. So what we're going to do now is go further with this and see, does it actually make sense, this connection with the biblical Cush and the Greek god Zeus? And does it ring true with things we can discover and things that we've already spoken about? We actually created this video quite a while ago with this theory, could the Greek god Zeus be the biblical Cush? But we're now updating it and putting it into this video. But one of our viewers, Kivan Crawford, sent us this comment saying Zeus is actually Baal Hamon, and then in brackets Ham. Just search Zeus is Baal, both are weather gods. So now we can see this attempt to look for connections with the Bible and the mythology. And this has been done throughout the centuries. Many researchers and scholars have tried to do this, but mistakes can be made and it can be confusing, mysterious, not straightforward to work with. I think our viewer is partly right and partly wrong. Let's try to explain this. Zeus is actually Baal Hamon. Let's go to the page on Baal Hamon. Okay, so Baal Hamon, god of weather and vegetation, king of the gods, chief god of Carthage, so worshipped by the Phoenicians. Now, the equivalents are important. So the Greek equivalent is Kronos, and the Roman is Saturn, and the Canaanite is Dagon. And Dagon is mentioned in the Bible. But now we know from the work we've been doing and our learning of the Greek mythology that Kronos is the father of Zeus in this mythology. So it can't be, as the viewer says, Zeus is actually Baal Hamon. If we trust the scholarship here, Zeus can't be Baal Hamon because this is actually the father of Zeus. But it's very interesting that the scholar, interesting that the viewer, could be a scholar, is putting Ham in brackets. So there's connection to the Hamites. So for those that are new to this, it could be connected to Ham. Because we're saying with this theory, could Zeus be the biblical Cush? And this could be the father of Cush, and the Bible tells us that is Ham. So it is very interesting that we do see this similarity in the name. I think it's worth mentioning now that just because you write something down doesn't make it true. This needs to be tested and scrutinized, but I just wanted to show you visually the genealogy of the Bible and this comparison to the Roman and the Greek mythologies. Might be nice to actually see it visually. Let's go to the second part of the comment, which looks to be correct, and that is the connection of Zeus with Baal. But I first want to go back to the page on Baal Hamon to show that we have to go to a different page to go to Baal. So it's a different page, and then if we look to the equivalents, we see Zeus, the Greek god Zeus, and the viewer is saying that these are both weather gods. So if we just check those details for our learning, if I go to the page on Baal, we see that Baal is connected with weather, rain, wind, and lightning. And if we go to the page on Zeus, we see sky, lightning, and thunder. So we can see the comparisons. And this is going to be important for our discussion later on in the video with these different pantheons or these different mythologies. Are they all connected? And the way they describe the theory for that is comparative method, looking for comparisons with the different mythologies. And that's something that we've noticed with our own exploring and research, that these different mythologies seem to be all connected. I just want to say something about this term Baal, because this can get quite confusing, how we have Baal Hamon, but then we have a different page for Baal, which has been connected with Zeus. Just for those that are maybe new to this term Baal means Lord or Master. So it's a title. So we can see how different deities or different gods can have the same name, this name Baal, because it's a title. So hopefully that explains that. In this part, I'd like to reflect on some of these things that we've been speaking about, and does it make sense with the theory that we're putting forward or asking? Is the Greek god Zeus really the biblical Cush? And now we're also asking about Kronos. So we see Kronos as the father of Zeus. Is Kronos the biblical Ham? So the Bible teaches us that Cush is the son of Ham. And does that connect with the mythology, with Zeus and Kronos? We've been speaking about this mythology. We've been speaking about Epaphus, a son of Zeus, looking at this family tree. And we were saying that if we think about what we taught and the perspective that we have on the Greek mythology and the Greek world, does it make sense that the Greek god Zeus, or the son of the Greek god Zeus, is being made the king of Egypt? So if we go back up to the top here, we see that Epaphus was a king of Egypt, according to this mythology. So if your son is becoming the king of Egypt, that means you must have power over Egypt in order for that to happen. So that's what I would like to do now, is think about this theory. Does it actually make sense? Connecting Zeus with Cush, because then we'd be saying that the king of Egypt is coming from Cush. And would that actually make sense? And if we think about the historical record, we know that there has been Nubian dynasties ruling over Egypt, or we could say Ethiopian dynasties ruling over Egypt. So we can see this power of the Sudan or Ethiopia over Egypt throughout different points in history. Let's learn a few details about the Nubian dynasty, or could we say the Kushite pharaohs. So it's called the 25th dynasty of Egypt. We see it formed part of the Kushite Empire, but is this connected to the biblical Cush? And the date we have is 754 BC to 656 BC for this dynasty. So this is a period of our history where the Nubians or the Kushites were ruling over Egypt. But we want to know about further back into the past. To go back to our theory and this question about Zeus having the power over Egypt. Because how else could his son become the king of Egypt if he didn't have the power over Egypt? But with this theory, we're asking, is Epaphus really a son of Cush? So did the family of Cush have power over Egypt? That's what we'd be asking. And does that make sense with what the Bible could be telling us? Let's go to the top of the page to reflect on some things that we learned about Epaphus. In our previous videos, we learned that Epaphus was described as swarthy of hue, and I've highlighted these descendants for a reason, the high-souled Ethiopians. So these are descendants of Epaphus, but we must also remember that they are going to be descendants coming from Zeus. We know in the Bible that Ethiopia has become synonymous with Cush. So it's just another interesting example where on the same page we can see the Greek god Zeus, and we have descendants of Zeus being described as high-souled Ethiopians. So another interesting connection there. This is another interesting example. We have a character in the Greek mythology called Memnon, a part of the Trojan War saga, but not a character that gets a lot of focus and attention, is Memnon. And according to this mythology, Memnon was king of Ethiopia. It's very interesting according to this that it turns out that the Trojans were actually hoping and waiting for Memnon and his army of Ethiopians to come to the rescue, to save Troy, but not just Ethiopians, also Indians in the army, which we spoke about a long time ago, how that was very interesting. But I would like to read this part here where it says, where it speaks about Zeus. So it says, before the next day's battle, so great is the divine love towards Memnon that Zeus makes all the other Olympians promise not to interfere in the fighting. So this is just for interest, or it's not a clear connection, but speaking about a divine love of Memnon from Zeus. So just another way of maybe seeing this. Does it make sense that Memnon is the king of Ethiopia? And if we connect Zeus with Cush, would it make sense that Zeus has a divine love for the king of Ethiopia if it's actually the biblical Cush? So I thought that was also another interesting example. Let's finish this part of the discussion by thinking about Alexander the Great. We have been speaking quite a lot about Alexander. Just thinking about it again with this perspective. We know, according to the legends, that Alexander claimed to be a descendant of Zeus, of the Greek god Zeus. So he would have believed that he was descended from a god. But in this story, in his life story, he comes to Egypt to try to show that he's a rightful ruler of this land, to become a pharaoh. And then he is announced as the son of Amun, or Amun-Ra. And then we notice that we have the equivalent with Zeus. The Egyptians worshipping Amun could be the same as the Greek worship of Zeus. And this is going to be important for our final part of the video. But if we just think about that again, one more time, that what's going on here? Is Alexander turning his back on his Greek identity? Is he now wanting to try to please the Egyptians and worship something different? Or does he know that Zeus is the same as Amun? So to be called the son of Zeus or the son of Amun, there's not really any difference. But again, we can think about, what actually makes sense, what actually rings true, where we have Alexander as a descendant of Zeus, but coming to Egypt to show that he's a rightful ruler. So let me know what you think about the theory and these connections that we've brought forward. Does it make sense? Does it ring true? Before we get to the final part of the video, I would like to clarify something. Before people get too excited and start making claims that we're actually not saying on this video, because sometimes people, they see what they want to see and they hear what they want to hear. we could be saying, if everything we've said in the video is correct and true, that Alexander the Great was a Cushite. And we've already said in the video that in the Bible, you can use the term Ethiopia or Cush. So does that mean that Alexander the Great was an Ethiopian? So this is where we have to try to be clear and also think about some things that we've covered already in our previous video. So we'll just recap that quickly, that Alexander claimed to be a descendant of Zeus, but then also coming to Egypt and being announced as the son of Amun. And with this video, we're speaking about this theory, could the biblical Cush be the same as the Roman Jupiter or the Greek god Zeus? But then, like I said, I'm not going to repeat that all again. Would that make Alexander the Great a Cushite? So I want to just share something that we have spoken about. Just to be fair and clear for this video, we're going to go to Helen of Sparta or Helen of Troy. This is a depiction. We're told this is a depiction of Helen of Sparta, and we notice the appearance. But then it is also interesting to, see the soldiers next to her. And we also learn about the mother of Helen being described as having snowy white skin. Just for us to think about, that we need to be careful before we get, let's say, too excited and start making claims that we don't know are true. And for our learning for the mythology, Helen of Troy or Helen of Sparta is a daughter of Zeus. So that's interesting that with all the things that we've said and we've been speaking about, this could be the appearance of a daughter of Zeus. So I just want to go back to our picture that we started with for Alexander the Great. This could be a depiction of Alexander the Great with the famous battle against the Persians. So yeah, I just wanted to put this out there, that just to be clear, what are we saying, what are we not saying, and that we have to be careful that we don't jump to conclusions and jump the gun. If we work with the premise that this theory is correct, connecting Ham and Cush with the Indo-European mythology, what would that mean for our recent discussion? So what I've done is I've created a playlist for this video so we can see the 5 videos that we've done this year, and they all are connected. So yeah, what would this mean for our discussion? Because we did this video, are the Aryans of Ham or Japheth? Is the theory of Indo-European peoples false? And that was discussing this map for the Indo-European language family. And we said something seems to be false. Now we're going to be really going further with this, because if we think about the Indo-European mythology, this page is speaking about the Proto-Indo-European mythology. So we were speaking about that idea of comparative mythology, finding similarities amongst these pantheons and these religions. And it speaks about this theory or assumption that parts of the Proto-Indo-Europeans' original belief systems survived in the daughter traditions. So the spread of this mythology and surviving with the daughter traditions. So even though this map is of the Indo-European language spread, not mythology, I still think we can use this same map and talk about mythology at the same time. We're going to have a Germanic pantheon, we're going to have a Celtic pantheon, so the map is still useful for this discussion. But how can this map be accurate and true? We were speaking about it, what is false about it. How could it be accurate and true if this theory is correct? That the Indo-European mythology could be based off persons from the Bible, so Ham and Cush. How can the map stay the same? How can this map be true? So that's the point we want to ask. But then if we say, even if this theory is false, even if we say that this theory is false, there still has to be answers, because we're coming across information that still needs to be explained, but explained and answered in a fair way that we can accept as being truthful. Because I would like to show you what I mean. I know this is difficult, it might be difficult to explain this, but the idea that they're saying here is that this Proto-Indo-European pantheon is like a basis for the daughter traditions that would survive and pass on, so that they all have a similar base or foundation. I just want to focus on one of these, which will be a sky father. So it's saying that these Indo-European mythologies are going to be connected, or you can compare them, and they're going to be connected by having a sky father, which we know as Jupiter. We see here Jupiter means sky father, but we've learned now that this is the same as the Greek god Zeus. So Zeus is also a sky father. So now this is the important part now, because we also learned that Amun, or Amun-Ra, is being connected, or it says an equivalent for Zeus, and Amun-Ra worshipped in Egypt. So if Amun-Ra is the same as Zeus, so a sky god or a sky father, how can this map be true? Because if the Egyptians are worshipping the same deity or the same god as the Greeks, how can you say that this is an Indo-European mythology, leaving out the Egyptians? You can't leave out the Egyptians if they're worshipping the same deity as the Greeks. Let me know if that makes sense, because I also don't want to get lost in this where you wonder, am I actually making sense with what I'm asking and these questions? But this is just going to be my opinion. The way I feel about this is that this map is trying to maintain a perspective or maintain an image, and it seems to be an attempt to have it to be disconnected from Africa. That's what it seems to me, is an attempt to control the information, control these maps, and present it in a way where it's disconnected from North Africa and also from Egypt, so that it seems like this has developed, if you want to say, with Europe and also going towards Asia, that this language family has started or originated in this region and has spread out. But that, now remember, that's also going to be connected with the mythology, with the spread of the mythologies, and that it's disconnected from Africa. But how can that be true if the Egyptians are worshipping the same deity as the Greeks and the Romans? It doesn't seem to make sense. So that's what I'm asking. There needs to be a reasonable explanation for this, even without the theory of this video being true. The final thought is going to be more of an elaboration. We made a point about speaking of this theory we putting forward, and then we went to the map for the Indo-European language family, and we said, how can this be true? We didn't really elaborate further on that, because we're thinking about the work that we've already done, and a lot of the viewers are going to be following along. But if you are new to the channel, just coming across this video, if we think about traditional biblical scholarship, this viewer comments, I would say, is generally following traditional biblical scholarship. just want to focus on this part here where it says that Ham is the son of Noah, who is connected to the people of Africa. So this connection with Ham and Africa, and then also this one from one of our viewers, Bethlehem Heat. Now this is not the perspective of the viewer, this is actually a dictionary definition for Ham, and I want to focus on this part where it says progenitor of the dark races. So when you have those two elements for Ham, if we think Ham in Africa, Ham and the dark races, but we think about this theory we're putting forward, we just go back to that image with this family of Ham being connected with the Indo-European mythology. That's the point I was trying to make without actually elaborating. If we go back to the map, how can this be true or accurate? So it's, to me, it's almost like something has to give. You can't try say those things that we've just read about Ham and keep this image or this perspective for the Indo-Europeans if this Indo-European mythology could actually be connected to the family of Ham. So let me know if that makes sense. And also, if you read this comment, this could be an interesting comment to actually make a video on, to actually go through this comment. So if anybody wants to say, write in the comment section that they would actually appreciate that, to actually go through this comment together, we can do that. I'll put this link to this playlist in the description below. Notice that there's no title, there's no description, because this is an ongoing study. We're exploring. We haven't got a set goal. We're actually trying to be quite flexible, reacting to the comments from the viewers, seeing what you want to share, what you've learned, what you can offer, even if it's, let's say, constructive criticism. So we'll wait for the reaction. We also still maybe have to do a follow-up to this video. Got lots of comments to this video, so that could be interesting. But let's see the reaction to this one. It's a very important theory that we're putting forward. You know, it could have quite a lot of implications. So it is very important, and it's a very serious study that we are in. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you to those that like the videos. Until the next one, take care, and hopefully we'll see you in another video.